Learn how LSVT therapy is helping those with Parkinson's regain their voice and movement. HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital's Jessica Mottashed and Samantha Probst explain how these innovative therapies are changing lives. That's what's next on Being Well.
This is you, and you are why we do what we do. Because the way you feel matters. Sarah Bush Lincoln, trusted, compassionate care.
For over 50 years, Horizon Health has been keeping you and your family healthy. And although some things have changed, Horizon Health's commitment to meet the ever-changing needs of our community has remained the same. Horizon Health, 50 years strong.
Carl is redefining healthcare around you, innovating new solutions and offering all levels of care when and where you need it. Investing in technology and research to optimize healthcare, Carl is always at the forefront to help you thrive.
Welcome back to another episode of WEIU TV's Being Well. I'm your host, Lacey Spence, and today we're going to be talking about some therapies that will benefit folks who are experiencing Parkinson's disease. And to talk about this, we have two wonderful new guests to the show today. Joining us from HSHS Medical Group, please introduce yourselves. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Lacey. My name is Jessica Mottashed. I'm a physical therapist with HSHS St. Anthony's, and I did my undergraduate actually here at EIU, and then had my graduate doctoral degree from Missouri State University, and then I've been working for HSHS ever since for 8 years, and I also lead our Parkinson's support group in Effingham.
Awesome. And then yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Samantha Probst. I'm a speech language pathologist and have earned my master's degree here at Eastern as well. My undergrad was done at Murray State University, and I've been a practicing SLP for 8 years as well.
Wonderful. And you got your EIU blue on.
I do.
That's usually like if you ask anybody around here, I'm like always wearing the EIU blue. Not today. But to the matter at hand. So for folks at home who maybe are just getting introduced to this type of topic, maybe they've heard of Parkinson's, but they're not even sure what it is, what it entails, how it impacts the body. Can either of you or both of you kind of speak to what this looks like when it manifests in somebody?
Yeah, so Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disease. That is fancy for there's a certain area of the brain where the nerves are kind of degenerating or losing their power, essentially.
Okay.
And what happens is it attacks the movement area of the brain. So it changes the way that we move, not just physically, but also with like our voice. It changes the way we can project our voice, or it changes the way we write. And so Parkinson's disease it's a spectrum. You know, some people that are initially diagnosed maybe have very few motor or movement symptoms, and they have other non-motor or less movement type symptoms that they're experiencing, all the way to they're having a lot of mobility issues.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And how does somebody go about getting diagnosed with this?
It's a great question. Usually they go to a neurologist based on their symptoms, and then they do a series of tests that can help them determine is Parkinson's the correct diagnosis for them, or maybe another neurodegenerative disease. So that's usually where the first route is. You can always start with your primary care physician as well, but usually a specialist will have to take care of that.
So what type of symptoms are we talking about here? Again, I know you said it can be kind of a gradual thing, but when should I be concerned? When should I actually speak up to my doctor?
Most people will speak up to their doctor when they notice what's called a tremor or shaking of the hand. That is the typical first symptom that people say, okay, something's not right. Even when I'm at rest, my hand might be shaking. Okay. And typically it's one-sided. But a lot of times they'll have many other symptoms too. From a voice and facial perspective, they kind of lose their volume. Their facial expressions go down, so they don't smile as much as they used to, or even using their eyebrows and their facial expressions to, to when they're talking to people.
Sure.
But they have a lot of symptoms like that that usually kind of cue them, okay, something's going on and I need to go talk to my doctor now.
And what type of conditions or other conditions, just by name, can Parkinson's be mislabeled for?
Yeah. There's a lot of like Parkinsonian type disorders where the one that comes to the top of my mind is essential tremors. So someone may have what's called essential tremors where they do have that shaking, but typically there's a little bit of a difference. They might have the shaking on both sides of their body versus the one side. And then those people tend to not have as many other of these symptoms that someone with Parkinson's would have.
Yes, and then also along with that, you can have Parkinsonisms. We have seen that as well, but sometimes it's not a true Parkinson's disease. Can I define those two for you? No, but that is the difference they can have as well.
And I know you guys have different specialties between a physical aspect and then a speech aspect. So are you guys kind of siloed off, or do you ever work together?
So usually treatments aren't a co-treating per se, usually during the same treatment, but a patient can be scheduled the same day to get both LSVT big and then LSVT loud. They can do that in conjunction. Some patients are a little timid by that because that's a lot of therapy for them in one day to receive. But mostly we do them separate in our own little silos, as that you say, but we do talk amongst each other just to figuring out what is the best approach for them for their overall plan of care.
And people are, I assume, going to be very individualized. Someone might need more physical help or speech help.
Yes. There is kind of I know it's maybe a caveat to a question later, but sometimes patients may notice the first symptom as physical mobility, right? We notice, how am I getting around every day to figure out what can I do to improve this, right? But sometimes we wait until we're a little too late. We can never be too soon to catch this in time. So the sooner you actually come, the better that your treatment will be for you with the diagnosis of Parkinson's.
And I don't mean to be ignorant about this. Is Parkinson's only a disease that adults manifests in adults, or is it in children as well?
No, it's typically young adults if it's going to be diagnosed early. They're getting much better at diagnosing it early. So the number of people diagnosed with Parkinson's is drastically increasing, but it's because physicians are getting much better at getting that, what we call young or early onset Parkinson's disease. And those people can get it in their 30s or 40s. You know, it used to be they weren't diagnosed until later in life, 60s, 70s, 80s. But now they're getting diagnosed much earlier, which is good from a treatment perspective because then we can get them into treatments quicker and earlier.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for letting me pick your brain on that. Again, coming into it, just trying to kind of lay the groundwork. So as we pivot to talk more about the specific therapies, like LSVT, what are those?
The acronym, yes.
Language or?
It's the Lee Silverman Voice Treatment.
Okay.
So that's what it stands for.
And so we've got big and we've got loud. Should we start at big or loud?
Big.
Yeah, big. Why not, right?
Let's go big or go home.
That's right.
Okay. So big. This deals with the physical aspect of things, motion. So what does a typical therapy session look like with that?
Yeah. So, you know, like I was saying before, the Parkinson's disease attacks that movement disorder, that movement area of the brain. So when someone comes in that first visit, a lot of times they will have very slowed, small steps. They'll be kind of bent forward posture. They may have rounding of their shoulders, kind of arms tucked in tight. And so with this type of treatment, why it's called LSVT big is because we teach those patients how to move bigger, make bigger movements, almost over exaggerate those movements. So then when they're going about their day to day, it becomes more automatic to make that larger movement. So we teach them to swing their arms really big when they're walking, or to take really big steps. We do a lot of reaching to the side big, or reaching up overhead with very big purpose. So then when they get home and they have to reach for that cup out of the cabinet, it's not that slowed small movement. Their brain is now wired to move bigger to be able to reach that. And
I mean, the looks of things, it's so minuscule compared to doing what you need to do for your health. But just from an outsider perspective, if I see somebody who's gone through this big treatment, so at the store, does it look like they're reaching big, or it just feels bigger to them?
It feels big to them. And that's one of the questions that's asked of the patients is, how big do you feel like you're moving? And they maybe feel like they're moving off the charts big, but to us it looks normal, or what would be a normal movement.
Okay.
It's just causing their brain to work harder to get that large movement. So they feel like they're walking, you know, like a Tin Man, kind of huge steps, but it reciprocates, and it looks like to us that it is a normal gait pattern or walking pattern.
And so if I'm somebody who's going through this treatment, can I expect for my symptoms to stop or reverse, or what could I possibly hope for?
So with Parkinson's being a neurodegenerative disease, it is not a cure for that. But it does slow the progression. This disease process has been studied for decades. And what they have noticed, and it's very concise and decisive, movement is what makes them slow their progression. And so by getting them to move bigger and be more confident with their movement and getting them these exercise programs, then that slows the progression of their symptoms. So then they're able to keep their independence longer. They're maybe able to prevent using an assistive device for longer. And Sam and I were talking about it. You know, the number one thing that we notice with these treatments, it's typically the care partner that notices the changes first.
Wow.
They're the ones that at home are saying, yeah, I don't have to open the door for my person anymore. Or they want to sign the checks now, whereas before they didn't because their writing was small. So they notice the changes first, and then the patients then notice it as well.
And that has to fill your heart,
Oh,
just to, you know, see the positive changes. So let's pivot and talk for a minute. Let's get loud.
Yeah, let's get loud.
Can you talk about what the loud therapy entails?
Yes, so the LSVT Loud program was actually the originator before Big. It was kind of surprising. Sometimes when we look at therapy perspective, physical therapy is such a huge part of therapy world, but actually the LSVT Loud came first. And so basically it's a 4 times a week for 4-week program. So 16 sessions, and what we're going to target is vocal loudness overall, right? So we do a series of things to determine, where is their proprioception and their understanding of how their loudness is, right? We do a scale. I would give one to the spouse and one to the patient. Do I mumble all the time, or do I not? Do I talk monotone? Do I not? So we get that scale, and it's pretty evident that the spouse and the patient usually are kind of on different spectrums. So our awareness is not there. So we work through the program building awareness. And then our biggest thing is think loud, such as big, we think big, move big, we think loud. So by the end of the program of those 16 sessions, we want the patient to be like, now I just have to think loud. And it helps us so much better, you know? So that's such an eye-opening experience for them once they kind of do that full circle motion. So, yeah.
And so what is this affecting? Is this like literally it's affecting how loud my speech is? Or is there a component of like, I can't hear me as well? Or
Yes, so some people, I'm gonna put it in the 90%, if they're a patient of mine, will say, my spouse needs to get hearing aids, I'm fine. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And actually some spouses have went and got hearing aids and it didn't fix it. So what it works on is we see a hierarchy of movements. So we start on a sustained ah, and then we do a, what you would do in a choir, which I'm not gonna perform for you, is a high ah, so you go through different frequencies, a low ah. And this is another hard thing that in the program we do is 10 functional phrases. So you have to think about 10 things that you say every day, whether it be good morning, hello, I love you, such as I had one patient, he used to be a former military and his wife always worked out and he would have to yell, it's time to get out of bed. And so he would practice that every morning. And then we worked on a hierarchy of speech from words all the way up to paragraphs. And then we always work on conversation. That is the hardest part about this program is conversation, because we no longer have script in front of us or a specific task. And then we have to think, oh, I have to now put that carryover into effect of thinking loud. So yeah, that's our program.
Does it ever feel awkward for them? Like, do they ever express that they feel like they're yelling then?
100%, yes. Even on the first session, I model a loud voice. And they're like, why are you shouting? And I said, well, I'm modeling this because this is what I want you to slowly achieve. And they say, well, every time I think loud, I feel like my spouse is going to think I'm yelling at them and I'm mad. No, it just achieves that ability to what the lack of dopamine in our body is doing. It's making the voice and the lack of air supply for us and the phonation of our vocal cords lower. So what it does is if it increases our loudness and we think loud, we're going to finally achieve normal loudness. But to them, just as Jessica said with big, they're going to think they're moving big, but they're actually talking at a normal speaking voice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then kind of pivoting back when we were talking about big, I assume that loud is also, it's not a cure, but does it also have the same effects of being able to slow or stop the progression type thing?
Correct. Not a cure.
Okay.
But our goal is to build more confidence in these patients when communicating every day to their loved ones or to individuals who need to meet their functional needs. So our goal is to, the earlier we can catch it for them, the better and the longer just loving kind of communication they can have with those spouses, because a lot of times what we'll see our patients do is slowly regress within conversation. So let's say I'm at a family outing. If I have Parkinson's, I'm most likely not going to speak to anybody. I'm just going to sit there quietly because no one can hear me and I don't want to repeat myself 3 times. But now if we get into the LSVT Loud program, we can help eliminate that and then help those spouses be like, oh my gosh, friends came over this weekend and they talked. They had such a good conversation with their friends and that was so good. So yes.
So outside of therapy time for both of you, for big and for loud, what are things that people can be doing at home when they're not with you to maybe help continue to progress their progress?
This is the beauty of science, is it's constantly, they're coming out with new programs and they're constantly researching programs that are out there to making sure that they are accredited and doing what they are supposed to do to help. There are tons of online resources. I always encourage people, there's a couple different foundations. Michael J. Fox is one of the ones that a lot of people think of with Parkinson's. That foundation, there's a Parkinson's Foundation that you can get a lot of really good resources to find a lot of these good programs and additional programs in your area. One of the things with leading the Parkinson's support group of Effingham County is I get a lot of emails from these organizations that are, hey, check out our free Zoom classes and check out our YouTube channel. And so I always encourage the people in the support group too, if you're not part of an LSVT Big or Loud program, or you're kind of in between right now, go online, look at those resources, because there are great exercise videos and there's great resources online for these people to kind of have that bridge when they're not in therapy and able to still keep moving.
Sure. Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so every time a patient completes our program, they leave with the exact same handouts and exercises they learn with us.
Perfect.
So I encourage them to complete them at home daily because I tell people with the frequency of 4 times a week for 4 weeks, that's like having a second job again, right? These people are retired. They're not used to coming back. So I just say, enjoy this in your home. And then also the spouses or loved ones in their homes are like their drill sergeants. They keep them on task and they keep them motivated to do this because they see the positive change throughout the program. So they can leave with any exercises that we provide them and also carry those out too.
Yeah.
So is that the best advice that you would give to a care partner or someone in the home, is just to remain encouraging?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And just be positive throughout this experience, because sometimes we can't live in their shoes, right? So we just want to make sure that we are providing them with as much encouragement and motivation. And despite their frustrations at times, just being that positive light for them is a great thing.
Yeah, and know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of people going through this diagnosis or their family members are. And so reaching out to even the local senior centers, finding support groups, finding groups that work out together that have this diagnosis, it can be such a rewarding thing for them just to have other people in the community that are going through the same things that they are.
And just since you are connected to the Effingham County support group, is this mainly for the folks living with it, or does it include care partners? Or
it's both. Yeah.
Okay.
Both. And a care partner, you know, I try to encourage, it doesn't have to be a spouse. You know, it can be someone that comes in the home and is a caregiver. It can be a daughter or a son. You know, anyone that is involved with that person's life is more than welcome to come to meetings like that.
And I gather it's probably another individualized type factor, but do you all's therapies, do they align with maybe some sort of medicine regimen as well?
Yes,
they do.
So typically when we intake a patient, we will ask them, what kind of medications are you taking and when do you take them? Because ideally, we want people to come in when they're at their physical best. And so we call it on and off times.
Okay.
When their medicines have kicked in, that's when we want them to come in, because then their medicine's at a tightened point. We're gonna really try to work on the nerves and the muscles to try to get them to fire better. And so when we can do that in conjunction with each other, we tend to see much better results.
Fair enough. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, that's absolutely true. And then also too, with some individuals with Parkinson's, they may get also a deep brain stimulator. So that's a surgery that is involving the brain. And sometimes with those treatments as well provided, along with what you mentioned with the medicine, they can kind of go hand in hand and you see positive results as well.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to success stories, even just hearing about the care partners being able to notice that their spouse was able to have conversations again, I mean, my gosh, that's amazing and heartwarming. But from both of your perspectives, what have you, maybe a story to share from each of your respectives, big and loud, how they've been able to have a new outlook on life, I guess?
Yeah. So we do intake videos where we video people when they're walking, getting up from the mat or from a chair to see how well they can functionally move at the first visit. And then we do that again at the end of the 4 weeks. And there is one patient in particular that I'm thinking of that, like you said, he would go to family gatherings and he would kind of sit in the corner by himself. He didn't even feel comfortable carrying a drink. And by the end, by that last video, he was walking with no assistive device, holding a drink in his hand, big steps, a normalized walking pattern. And he just felt like he had, he had his independence back and he had his confidence back, which was huge to see in that case.
Yeah, not just a physical game, but a mental game as well.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I can't just pinpoint one, but I'm going to stereotype a gender. A lot of them are men that I see that have the biggest success stories, because I have men can come through specifically who don't like to talk a lot, right? They're very quiet prior to getting the Parkinson's diagnosis. Or you have men who are salesmen and who have traveled throughout the entire United States and who have made a living off that. And it's hard because we have to figure out to mix in the middle. How are we going to get that success? And usually on day 1, we do a voice recording. And then on day 10, within our 16-day program, we do a voice recording. And my biggest success is when I play that video recording for them and I see their eyes light up, and then I also play it for their spouse on the next day. Because then they're like, wow, this was really worth it. It was worth it for every penny that we've put in and every minute that we put in for our exercises.
September 15th, 2022.
When the sunlight strikes the raindrops in the air, they act as a prism, and they form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into a beautiful color. These take shape for a long round arch, with its path high above and its 2 ends apparently beyond the horizon.
10/5/22, take 2.
When the sunlight strikes a raindrop in the air, they act like a prism and form a rainbow. The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors. These take shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its 2 ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Well, that is so good to hear. Again, it's exciting to see where we're at with, the science, the therapy is always developing and moving. As we're in our last couple of minutes here, is there anything that I didn't ask about that you all think is important for people to know, whether it's misinformation or things they maybe shouldn't be nervous about that they are?
Well, I think, when you look at the program and it is 4 times a week for 4 weeks with hour-long sessions, it is an hour-long, it's a commitment, and it's a long, intensive session for them. But we make it fun, and I want people to know that, that they think, oh, I'm going to have to work out 4 times a week for an hour, that's just too much. But we really tailor it to what their wants are. What do they want to accomplish in their day-to-day, or their spouse wants them to be able to do. So I want to make sure people know that it is a really fun program, and it is covered by insurance. That's always a question too.
Sure.
So, it is a program that would be covered through an insurance company.
Yeah, and for LSVT Loud, our biggest thing is we just want them to feel motivated, right? Yeah. It can be the smallest fraction of thing that you want to do, right? And so sometimes they go through LSVT Big first and they're like, whoa, that was a hard work. So then we get involved with LSVT Loud and they're like, oh, that wasn't too bad. So it's good.
So you're going to be like the dessert after the dinner of broccoli and chicken.
Yes, exactly.
Well, wonderful. Well, I've learned so much about these 2 therapies. Thank you so much for coming on Being Well. It's been great having you guys today.
Thank you,
so
Lacey.
much.
And we want to thank our viewers too for joining us for this episode of Being Well. We hope you learned something as well, and that you will join us for our next episode.
Carl is redefining healthcare around you, innovating new solutions and offering all levels of care when and where you need it. Investing in technology and research to optimize healthcare, Carl is always at the forefront to help you thrive.
For over 50 years, Horizon Health has been keeping you and your family healthy. And although some things have changed, Horizon Health's commitment to meet the ever-changing needs of our community has remained the same. Horizon Health, 50 years strong.
This is you, and you are why we do what we do. Because the way you feel matters. Sarah Bush Lincoln. Trusted, compassionate care.